On July 4, 1989, a Soviet pilot made the decision to abandon his failing fighter jet. There was just one problem: the jet didn't get the memo. This is the almost unbelievable true story of a ghost in the machine. A MiG-23 that, after its pilot ejected, decided to keep flying. It didn't spiral into the ground. It didn't explode. It simply kept going for over 600 miles on a ghost flight that would take it through the most heavily defended airspace in the world, straight into the heart of NATO. Welcome to Top Tier TV. Today, we're unraveling one of the most bizarre incidents of the late Cold War, a story that sounds like science fiction, but is documented fact. This is a tale of mechanical defiance, international tension, and a single, unmanned jet that became the world's most unpredictable missile. Our story begins at a Soviet airbase in what was then the Polish People's Republic. The date is July 4th, 1989. The pilot is Colonel Nikolai Skurigin, an experienced officer in the Soviet Air Force. His machine is the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-23 Flogger, formidable swing-wing fighter bomber known for its raw power, but also for its unforgiving nature. On this routine training flight, Skurigin took off without incident. But minutes into the flight, at an altitude of only a few thousand feet, he heard a loud, catastrophic bang. The jet shuddered violently. He glanced at his instruments. The engine RPM was dropping rapidly. A terrifying silence began to replace the familiar roar. He was losing power, and fast. Colonel Skurigin was a professional. He followed his training. He pushed the throttle forward, but there was no response. The jet was dying. At such a low altitude with a dead engine, he had seconds to make a decision. Believing the aircraft was in an unrecoverable dive, he reached for the only option left, the ejection hand. He pulled it. The explosive bolts blew the canopy away. The K-36 ejection seat, a masterpiece of Soviet engineering, fired him clear of the stricken aircraft. As his parachute deployed, he looked down, expecting to see his MiG-23 slam into the Polish countryside. But that's not what happened. What Skurigin saw must have been a mixture of relief and sheer, unadulterated confusion. His jet was flying away. The act of ejecting, it turned out, had somehow solved the problem. Investigators later concluded that the initial engine failure was likely caused by a faulty fuel pump. When Skurigin ejected, the violent change in the aircraft's weight and balance, combined with the change in airflow into the engine intake, somehow caused the pump to re-engage. The Tumansky engine roared back to life, but the pilot was gone. The MiG-23 was now an 11-ton ghost. It stabilized itself and began flying on a southwesterly heading, locked in as if on an invisible autopilot. And so began one of the most surreal journeys of the Cold War. The unmanned Flogger droned on, passing peacefully out of Polish airspace and into East Germany. Soviet air defense, now aware of the situation, was faced with a nightmare. Do they shoot down their own pilotless multi-million-dollar asset? They decided to track it, hoping it would run out of fuel and crash in a remote area. But the MiG was far from done. It flew with an almost supernatural determination straight across the border into West Germany, the heart of NATO. In NATO command centers, panic began to set in. An unidentified aircraft, confirmed as a Soviet MiG-23, was penetrating Allied airspace, and it wasn't responding to any hails. Was this a defector? A prelude to an attack? A bizarre Soviet provocation? Two U.S. Air Force F-15 Eagles from Soesterberg Air Base in the Netherlands were scrambled to intercept. When the F-15 pilots caught up to it, they were met with a sight they would never forget. There was the MiG-23, flying perfectly straight and level. As they pulled closer, they saw the truth. The cockpit was empty. The canopy was gone. One of the pilots radioed back to command, his voice a mixture of professionalism and sheer disbelief. "Sir, you're not going to believe this. There's no one in it." Their orders were clear: monitor the aircraft. If it showed any sign of turning towards a major population center, they were to shoot it down. And that's exactly what the MiG seemed to be doing. Its unwavering path was pointing it directly towards the densely populated city of Brussels. The ghost jet crossed into Belgium. It had been flying for over 90 minutes, covering more than 600 miles, but its fuel was finally running out. The engine, which had miraculously restarted, was now about to flame out for good. The F-15s, low on fuel themselves, were forced to break off. The fate of the MiG was now in the hands of physics. It began a slow, shallow descent. Below it was the quiet town of Belgium. On the ground, an 18-year-old man named Wim de Leer was in his garden. He, and everyone else, was completely unaware of the 11-ton piece of Soviet engineering falling silent from the sky. The MiG-23, now completely out of fuel, lost its final shred of lift. It nosed down and slammed into the house at nearly 500 miles per hour. The resulting explosion killed Wim de Leer instantly. It was a tragic, sobering end to a bizarre adventure. The incredible journey of the ghost MiG was over, but we must pause here to remember the true cost of this incident. Wim de Leer was an innocent young man with his whole life ahead of him. His death is a stark reminder that behind these strange and almost fantastical stories of war and machinery, there are real human consequences. We remember him with respect. For Colonel Skurigin, he was debriefed and ultimately not blamed for the incident. He had followed procedure. The Soviet Union eventually paid compensation to Belgium for the destruction. The incident became a bizarre footnote of the Cold War, a story of a machine that refused to die, a flight that defied all logic, and a tragic tragic reminder of the ever-present danger and powerful weapons take on a life of their own. The story of the Ghost MiG raises so many questions. Was Colonel Skurigin right to eject? Could the outcome have been different? And what does this incident tell us about the unpredictable nature of complex machinery, even today? I want to hear what you think. Was this a freak accident or a predictable failure of procedure? Share your opinions in the comments below. The discussion is one of the best parts of this channel. If you were captivated by this incredible true story, then make sure you're part of the top-tier TV community. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's most unbelievable moments. If this video took you on a journey you won't forget, please give it a like. It truly helps us continue to bring these stories to you. Thank you for watching. Remember the stories, honor those affected, and we'll see you in the next video.